Anybody got any questions? Great to see everybody. Thanks for coming out. Beautiful day. Back in the stadium.
Jay, we talked a lot about the in-game communication. What about the tablets? What type of impact do you think that'll have on?
Well, we got a chance to use the tablets in the bowl game, which I thought was a huge. You can't say an advantage because everybody gets to use them, so there's not one person gets to use something that somebody else doesn't use. But I do love it. I loved it in National Football League with the pictures. I do love the sideline video and what we're able to use on there, just to be able to educate, show the players what they're getting. I think it's a huge advancement in college football when you're talking technology and using it. And, we're moving more and more towards like what the NFL has and why the NFL has it. I just think I think it's really important. I think it's very functional. And, we've been able to use them, which has been a benefit for us.
If you're going to get something from the return game this year, what has to change?
I think we've gotten some good things from the return game in the past. You look at a lot of things that, I think Q Redding set up a lot of either big scores or go-ahead scores or put us in really good field position. I think he's been really smart with the football. But I do think our 11 have to play the whole play. There's times there's 10 out of 11 or 9 of 11. We didn't make a very good decision. We didn't use our technique. We didn't box out block when we're supposed to box out block. We didn't punch the far number when we're supposed to punch the far number. And then I think, as we continue to go, as teams present themselves in the punt block situation, if we can get some block punts like we did a few years ago. I know we opened the year with one against Michigan, and we just got to get better at that. Again, our players allow us to do what we need to do, and I like the depth of our punt return team or punt block team. I like how many players we have, and they're very skilled at being able to do both. So hopefully we have a lot more creativity and we have a lot more options in the scheme game to be able to do better than we have.
We saw a lot of Drake Lindsey today.
Yeah.
Was that planned to have Max not practice quite as much?
Yeah, there's a few guys. There's about 9 or 10 guys. Some were held up by the training staff just based on numbers. We analyze numbers very heavily here. I think our dietitians, nutritionists, trainers, doctors do a really good job, and we have so many different monitoring systems on our players in practice. And so our trainers pulled some guys back today. They'll be back Thursday. That's the great thing about having a double walkthrough tomorrow. You kind of benefit from that. But also there might be 1 or 2 guys nicked up that we kept out. And then also just to be able to get some other guys some reps. I think that's critical to have. I didn't tell them what was going to happen. Just kind of did it and let Drake take a lot with the ones, pulled some other guys out, see how the other guys would respond. Week 2 is about taking the floor and raising the floor. I've always believed that in training camp. There's a lot of guys have played a ton of college football here. They performed in college football. I know what they can do. Not like they're not going to practice. They practice the entire time except for today in a small piece of it. But now the people are fighting for jobs in week 2. I need to be able to answer questions by the end of week 2 and the middle of week 3 on the depth chart and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and what the answers are if and when something happens to somebody. And those are the questions we're answering here in week 2. And I think we had a great day to be able to evaluate it. We got a ton of reps, about 115 plays. And when you look at that, close to 80 plays are with whether you want to call them 2s, 1As, some 3s, some really young players. So some guys opened their eyes today, and we'll go back and evaluate the film. Some rose to the occasion, some didn't. But guys are fighting for spots, and they're competitive. That's what I like to see.
As you build this roster, do you feel good about where you're at along both lines, offense, defense?
I think we're really talented. I think we got to continue to create our depth. I like our depth of the defensive line of how different each player is and the ability to move each player around in different positions. We haven't necessarily had that before, where our nose guard can technically play 5 technique in some downs and distances, as well as our 5 technique coming down to 3 technique and do the same thing. We can take some linebackers and put them on as edge rushers. We can take some safeties and put them down in the box as a linebacker in some packages. We just have a lot of versatility on defense that I don't know if we've had in the past with as much versatility. On the offensive line, I feel like we've got some guys that have played a ton of football here. And then we've got really, really good players who just haven't had an opportunity to play in a Big Ten game yet. But hopefully they get the opportunity this year.
Was that intentional in recruiting to get kind of those multi-purpose defensive linemen, or is that just kind of how?
No, it is. When you kind of look at what we're able to get in recruiting and what we're able to get in the transfer portal and the type of player we were really focusing on, versatility's at the top of the list. And I'm not talking about a corner playing 3 technique. I'm talking about just being able to move guys with length, size, speed, athleticism, especially with what we've always done with our movements and what we've been able to do. I mean, we're not a big 3-4 team where you got this huge nose who's 2-gap and everything. You know, we're still what we do and how we do it on defense. But if we can get some long, athletic, rangy guys that are really strong, and then we can move people around, I think that's hard for an offense to game plan. Move protection just to one player, and really hard to know where we're coming from. And if you can get a lot of players that can rush the passer on third down, depending if they're linebackers or D linemen, hopefully that bodes well for success.
Do one or two more. I know you're a big note taker. What's in the notes about biggest areas for improvement you want to see out of this team?
It goes back to when we talked about the beginning of training camp's consistency. It's not about if they can make the play. It's can they make the play all the time. You know, we're past the days of like, oh, he did it once. Like, we got to play him. Guys have to be able to show it on a day-in, day-out basis of the consistency, the mental fortitude, the emotional fortitude, being able to keep your body healthy, commitment to the process, commitment to the film room, know what you're doing. Because, again, we're 3 weeks from game day. I mean, that's going to be here before we know it. So if you're making alignment, assignment, motion problems, and you're not, that's going to be hard to be able to make all that ground up in a week and have trust. You got to do that. That's what all the summer meetings are for. That's what all the things we did in the summer. When you get in here, you should be at least be able to line up, have motion shifts. And if we're behind on that, you know, we've either got to make some adjustments really quickly or you got to move on.
Coach, can you have a guy update on Darius Green and Daniel Jackson?
Yeah, Darius should be back pretty soon. He had an off-the-field issue in the summer that the trainers are keeping him out for. And then who else?
Daniel Jackson.
Oh, yeah, he'll be back on Thursday. He's one that trainers just held out for the day. And, you know, I love our trainers for that. You know, I mean, they bring up suggestions at times in terms of numbers. Then they also say, hey, this guy can't practice. Same with our nutritionists, our sports science people, and we're tracking all of that. So, but he'll be back. All the guys you saw out today should be back by Thursday or Friday.
Mike Graham, final question. When you have guys that you mentioned that are kind of versatile, what's a challenge as a coach? You just have to know just how much to give them. Like, you can do all this stuff, let's feed it all to them, or let's make him good at one thing first and then move down.
Well, I think that's where you start out, you know, when you're working on in Indy, you know, in the summertime, you know, even in the spring, you have an idea. You don't know what type of team you're going to be yet in the spring because a lot of guys are still going to join. But that's where I think the first 5 days of this camp, 6 days of this camp have been on hyperspeed. You know, throw a ton at them, who can handle it, who can function, who can perform under the pressure of the situation. That's what it's all about. I mean, it's not about here on, you know, Tuesday at 1:25 p.m. It's about who can do it. And that's why we're over when the lights are on. That's why we're always here in the stadium as much as we can be over here. Having our fans in the stadium was critical the other day. You know, having all of you here is really important. I think that adds another layer of pressure as we're getting evaluated, as you ask questions. And you're putting perceptions in your own mind about players as you watch them. So I think that's really important for them. We educate them on that. And as they spend time with you too, educate them through the media process and getting them to be able to talk to the media and have that added pressure to them.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, important day for Minnesota. Yeah, row the boat, Sky, go Gophers. Thanks.